Welcome to the Explainer. So you've built an app. It's awesome. It works perfectly on your laptop. But now what? You need to get it online, and deploying can feel like navigating this huge, complex, and expensive maze. Well, today, we're going to change all of that. Right? You've got this great side project, this awesome portfolio, and you just want to get it out into the world without having to pull out a credit card. But the second you start looking, you're just hit with this wall of jargon. PaaS, IaaS, serverless, containers. It is absolutely overwhelming. It's what we call analysis paralysis. So, this explainer, we're going to cut right through all of that noise. I'm going to give you a super clear, super simple framework for making sense of this always free cloud. The goal here is to help you choose the perfect stack for your project. No more guessing. Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start by breaking down your app into its 3 core layers. Then we'll explore the best free options for the front end, the back end, and your database. And finally, the fun part, we'll put it all together to create your perfect free stack. Let's dive in. All right, first step, your app's 3 layers. Before we can even start comparing different platforms, we need a simple way to think about all this. This mental model is going to be our map for the rest of the journey. So at its core, pretty much every full-stack application has these 3 parts. You've got the front end, that's what the user actually sees and clicks on. Then you have the back end, that's the application's brains, where all the logic lives. And finally, the database, that's where all the data gets stored. Our mission is simple. Find a free, permanent home for each one of these layers. Let's start with deploying the front end. Honestly, this is probably the easiest piece of the whole puzzle. The world of free hosting for modern static sites and JavaScript frameworks is, well, it's incredibly good right now. We're going to zero in on the 3 titans in this space. Now look, they're all excellent, but they each have unique strengths that might make one a better fit for your specific project. So let's break them down. Okay, this is where the choice gets really interesting. Vercel is the undisputed powerhouse for Next.js. I mean, they literally maintain the framework, so the integration is just seamless. Netlify is a fantastic all-rounder, a true pioneer of the Jamstack with a huge ecosystem. But Cloudflare Pages? This is a total game changer. Why? Because its free tier offers, get this, unlimited bandwidth by leveraging their massive global network for incredible speed and security. Now for the brains of the operation, running the backend. This is where all your core logic lives, handling everything from APIs to user authentication. Finding a free option here is a little bit trickier, so there are 2 really important concepts we need to cover first. The first thing is the sleep policy. This is the most common catch you'll find with free backend hosting. Basically, if your app isn't used for a short period, often just 15 minutes, the provider puts it to sleep to save resources. The next person who visits then has to wait through a noticeable delay while the app wakes up. And this leads us to a related concept you'll hear all the time with serverless functions, the cold start. It's a similar idea. If a function hasn't been called recently, there's a delay while a new environment is spun up. The key difference is that modern serverless platforms have gotten incredibly good at minimizing this delay, often getting it down to nearly 0. All right, so with those ideas in mind, let's meet our top contenders for the backend. We've got Render, which is kind of a modern successor to Heroku. Then there's Fly.io, which is all about deploying Docker containers. And finally, the serverless powerhouse, Cloudflare Workers. This table really highlights the key trade-off here. Render gives you that simple, classic developer experience, but your service will go to sleep after 15 minutes. Now, that's not always a deal breaker. For a background job or an internal tool, a 10-second wake-up time doesn't really matter. Fly.io, on the other hand, is a fantastic alternative, offering 3 small, always-on virtual machines for free. No sleeping. And then there's Cloudflare Workers, which delivers just unbelievable serverless performance with practically 0 cold starts on a massive free tier. And to really put that Cloudflare number into perspective, we're not talking about 100,000 requests per month. This is 100,000 serverless function invocations every single day. That works out to over 3 million requests a month. For a free tier, that is an absolutely enormous amount of power. An application is nothing without data, right? So the final piece of our 3-layer puzzle is choosing a database. And just like with hosting, there are some fantastic free tier options out there that can power some really serious projects. We're going to focus on the 2 major types. First, you have relational SQL databases like PostgreSQL. They're perfect for structured data. The easiest way to think about it is like a bunch of interconnected spreadsheets. On the other hand, you have non-relational NoSQL databases like MongoDB, which are way more flexible and store data more like a folder full of JSON documents. And here again, we see that critical trade-off.
Supabase is an amazing open source tool. It gives you a full-featured PostgreSQL database with 500 megs of storage. The catch? Free projects get paused after 1 week of inactivity. Now, that's totally fine if you're actively developing on it. MongoDB Atlas, however, gives you a slightly larger cluster that will never be paused, making it a truly permanent home for your data.
Okay, we've looked at all the options for each of our 3 layers. Now for the best part. Let's put it all together. Let's create some perfect, actionable recipes that you can use for your very next project. This is really the core principle we've been working towards. As a popular guide on this topic says, it's time to stop paying for side projects. The goal is to empower you to build and launch without cost ever being a barrier. Our first recipe is a huge community favorite for a reason. For a modern, tightly integrated stack, you combine a full-stack Next.js app on Vercel with a Supabase PostgreSQL database. The developer experience is just absolutely world-class. Recipe number 2 is all about high performance. If your priority is raw speed and handling a ton of traffic, the Cloudflare ecosystem is simply unmatched. You host your front end on Pages, run your API on Workers, and connect to a database like Supabase. Because everything runs at the edge, super close to your users, this stack is built for incredible speed. And our final recipe is built for maximum flexibility. If your backend isn't JavaScript or you just prefer working with Docker, this is your stack. You can containerize any application, Go, Python, you name it, deploy it on an always-on machine from fly.io, and connect it to a permanent MongoDB Atlas database. It's powerful, it's versatile, and it's completely free. So what's the key takeaway here? The days of needing a big budget just to get your ideas online are over. You now have a map to the zero-cost cloud and a set of proven recipes. The tools to build, deploy, and even scale for free have never been more accessible or more powerful. The analysis paralysis is over. So we've given you the framework, the contenders, and the recipes. The technical and financial barriers have been lowered. The only question left is the one that truly matters. What will you create?